Everybody ready? Locked and loaded? Good evening. We'll welcome everyone to the Sebastian City Council regular meeting. Please stand for an invocation by Rabbi Bernholtz from Temple Beth Shalom and remain standing for a Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilmember Coy.
It is an honor to come and address the Sebastian City Council. I apologize for my lack of coat. It didn't make it the trip in from the car in the midst of rain and lightning. I felt like I wanted to be here in one piece more than wearing a coat, so I apologize for a little less formal. It's also an honor to stand. I've been up here in Sebastian at Riverview Park doing so many of the veterans programs, and to finally come here before the City Council to offer a blessing is something that is awesome. And I can jokingly say that I've now been in Indian River County 13 years. I now have been here for a bar mitzvah, and now I'm old enough to come before the City Council. So it's wonderful to finally have our paths cross. And I start with a very simple story, and it is related to the Torah portion, the section of Torah that we're reading in Judaism, which has to do with vision. And of course, when you're talking about vision, you want to talk about holy eye beams, the kind of eye beams that come up and zap people. And of course, that would be a wonderful story to start with, because nothing says Bible like holy eye beams, right? The story is about a rabbi named Shimon Bar Yochai. And Shimon Bar Yochai was one of the rabbis in the time of the second war with the Romans. The first war, of course, involved the destruction of the Second Temple, and then about 60 years later, there's another revolt against the Romans, and the rabbis and their followers are battling back and forth. And Shimon Bar Yochai runs into a problem with the Roman authorities, and he has to go hide in a cave. And so he and his son hide in this cave for 12 years, and it leads to this point. The time came to leave the cave, and they looked about at the world they had not seen in a long time. So he and his son come out. Bar Yochai was surrounded by disciples. The sun dazzled in his eyes. In the distance, farmers could be seen tilling the soil as though nothing had changed in all this time. Turning to the men around him, Bar Yochai said, "Look, see how these people neglect eternal life for the needs of an hour. How can they be tilling their fields when we have to save the entire world," he says. And in that moment, and one version of the story has that it's this light from his eyes because he's so in touch with God comes out and consumes them, where the scene before them was consumed in flame is this version. And a voice from heaven calls to Bar Yochai, and he says, "How have you come out in order to destroy my world? Go back to your cave." And it's an incredible story because it's a powerful one as a group of people meets to talk about the future of a community. Because the reality is we all come with that sense of ideal and that sense of principle and how we have this grand vision of peace and harmony and how we're going to have the greatest community in all the world. But what happens in the midst of creating that vision if we fight with each other, if we battle with each other, if we undermine each other, if we don't act with graciousness and kindness? Those farmers were bringing food that we need just for their daily food, and yet Bar Yochai is so caught in his big vision that he doesn't do the daily stuff. It is an incredible moment for us as we start a meeting. How do we keep that big vision of principle, and yet how do we also find that human place where we work together on the simple moments and decisions we make? Oseh shalom bimromav hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. Truly, let us look to the high heavens, to that sense of order, that sense of harmony and completeness, the ideal that's about us, but let us also find ways of bringing that sense of shalom, of wholeness, completeness, and peace in every one of the little details that we work on this evening as a city council before this community of Sebastian, but also every step that leads us forward in the future. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mayor Gilmore.
Here.
Vice Mayor Adams.
Here.
Ms. Coy.
Here.
Mr. Hill.
Here.
Mr. McPartland.
Here.
Thank you.
There is an agenda modification. Is that not correct, Mr. Griffin?
Yes, sir. On your positions in front of you should be a agenda transmittal form that, frankly, I'm having to bring forward this evening because we're running up against a deadline, and it has to do with the Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant. I'd like to ask council to consider that on the consent agenda.
Move to approve.
Okay, any objections to that? No. Duly noted. It's unanimous. That's fine. We'll put it on the consent agenda then. That would be item, I guess, 8. F, correct. And that is a grant of $10,000, acceptance of that grant?
That's correct. Yes, sir.
All right. Proclamations. We have a presentation by the In-River County regarding optional sales tax. Come on down.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Jason Brown, County Budget Director. I have with me today, just in case I get in legal trouble, the County Attorney, Dylan Reingold.
Uh-oh.
Always
Hopefully you won't
counsel.
need him.
Let's hope we don't need him too much. Thank you for having us. It's great to be here. We're here this evening to request your support of the resolution that's on your consent agenda supporting the extension of the local option sales tax. As you may know, the county initially levied the 1-cent optional sales tax in 1989 for a period of 15 years. Then in 2002, we brought that back before the voters for a voter referendum to extend it for 15 years more. Good news is after a track record of 15 years, the voters approved the extension by about 66% to 34%. So now that second 15-year period is coming to a close in 2019. Earlier this year, the County Commission requested that we move forward, take the necessary steps to place this on the ballot for November 2016. Our board's general thought was that's the general election, that's when we'll have the best voter turnout, most representative vote. So we're beginning the process. The board recently approved a resolution supporting the extension, and they requested that we go around to the 5 municipalities and request a resolution supporting the same from them. So we're here tonight. You're our first county, or first city, I should say, sorry. And we're going to the other municipalities here shortly, Fellsmere next week. So with that, once we've gone to the 5 municipalities, then the county will take the action of holding an ordinance to approve the ballot language. There's a deadline of August of next year for that, and we will begin our public information campaign for that. We think that the sales tax has been a big benefit to the county, and hopefully has been a benefit to the cities. One of the things it does is it's allowed us to keep our ad valorem taxes lower. Without the 1-cent sales tax, a lot of the infrastructure that we've funded with it would result in we'd have to have higher property taxes or higher impact fees to support that. So another thing the sales tax does for us is it helps us keep our impact fees lower. Without them, they would be higher in order to fund our road projects. Also, everyone pays into the sales tax. Our visitors pay into to the program, whereas they don't share in the property tax load as much. And that's not about soaking the tourists. That's about getting everyone to pay their share, because a lot of our infrastructure, for instance, roads, is built for peak time when the snowbirds are here, when the tourists are here. So it's only fair that those folks should share in the cost. And finally, the sales tax has to be approved by the voters. So the county and the cities can take whatever actions and recommend the sales tax. However, it's got to be approved by the voters. So at the end of the day, the voters have the final say. We've accomplished numerous good projects as the municipalities have. I'll be brief and not go into that too much. So with that, we're here to request your support, and we're available to ask any questions you may have.
Jason, I noticed on our agenda tonight, we have in our consent agenda, we have a FDOT JPA for installation of reflective markings on the airport, and our match is $10,000 to be funded from DST. So, there's all kinds of things that we've been able to do with those funds that otherwise we'd have to go to the residents and get that from ad valorem. So I think everybody's on board. Any questions?
Just a comment to that. At the MPO meeting today, it was brought to our attention that without this sales tax, we'd be in big trouble with funding our roads, big trouble. And as we know, as we come into technology and gas prices were going up pretty high, so cars were using less and less gallons of gas. Now we're moving towards natural gas, which is not taxed, by the way. And that money would go for our infrastructure. Well, that money pile and pot of money is dwindling. It's going to go down in the future, not up. So this is really important. And tell me again when this was instituted. 1988 was the first?
Right, it was approved by the voters in '88, and it came into effect in 1989.
1989. We have been dealing with this, and it's something that hopefully we'll be able to show the public how desperately we do need this money. If we don't have this for our infrastructure, it's inevitable that the tax is going to come from somewhere else, and it'll be more and more painful. This way it applies, like you said, to everybody who comes in our community. So hopefully between now and the ballot time, we'll have a chance to do workshops and that to educate the public on how important this is for everyone in the county.
Any other questions? Or
I think the figure it was about $129 million that came from this that goes towards the roads.
It was, yeah, it was a lot of money, a lot.
Yeah, right now the county's putting in 75% of our sales tax to keep the road program going. So it's an essential piece. Without that, we'd have some serious.
Well, you weren't there today, so we put in some more.
I've got to go to those more often.
You shouldn't miss them.
Okay, I think we're good. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. Under brief announcements, we have a Utilities Town Hall meeting in Sebastian Chambers. That is 8/19. What day would that be? Wednesday? Week from today at 6 p.m. And it's for talking about the Indian River County solid waste and recycling changes. I know someone asked me yesterday if we were going to one-day pickup. I know there's some confusion out there. We're not going to one-day pickup. That's the county. We have our own contract with Waste Management, but we are going to get single-stream recycling, and that's what this is about, I think. Isn't that what the
Since
meeting's
you've
about?
brought that up on single-stream recycling, we are going to get bins real soon. They should be arriving at the airport and
Correct.
distributed real soon. But we're not allowed to use the new bins until the 1st of October. So, I mean, I want to use it. I'm ready. I'm ready to wheel it out there. But they will not pick up until the 1st of October because they're going to be using the truck with the arm on it. So, just because you got one, don't use it until the 1st of October.
Okay, any other announcements? I just have one. I wish Carol and Tony Vitale a happy 50th anniversary coming up. Happy anniversary. Okay, that moves us on to our fiscal year 2015-2016 proposed budget review. Ken, you are up. You financial wizard.
Perhaps only with the help of the DST monies continuing to come in. Okay, last month we had you consider and set the proposed millage rate. My presentation tonight is just pretty much the same as I had in the slides that were available that night. I didn't go through like the enterprise funds or some of the special revenue funds as much before as I'd like to make sure I cover tonight. I had mentioned this before, we cover what's included in the general fund as well as what's left out. I talk about the way the revenues and other means were used to balance the budget. Also going into the enterprise funds, touching on the property values and millage, and then some other thoughts. So the summary of the general fund budget is a total increase of $273,000. If you want to look at it in percentages, that's about 2.1%. The majority of the increase is due to the raises that we provided an allocation for, as well as the effect on benefits, the group insurance. The group insurance, we have taken the 15% that we allowed, applied the amount we needed for the premium increases, which were about 9%, and put the rest of it in the HRA, the health reimbursement account where the employees have the credit card. That covers their deductible amount, and we are intending to increase that so that they are made whole. In other words, we'll cover the amount of the deductible. I've outlined for you the new position changes. There's actually a one position decrease, one full-time position decrease in next year's budget, and I think an addition and on a net basis of one part-time. So we are kind of holding the line on staffing. Operating costs are across a wide variety of accounts. The election costs that we need to appropriate for next year is a piece of that. General increases in the police department, the janitorial contract, which is added on this side, but yet it was an offset and reduction on the personnel cost side. The CRA transfer had to be adjusted because of the higher assessed values in that area. Some other less important things. Capital outlays, we are spending less this year on capital outlays out of the general fund than we did last year. I've listed for you the main items. The biggest ones are the some audio visual cameras for this chambers, some other police equipment, parks and recreation equipment, and about $40,000 is scheduled for improvements for the restrooms at the Public Works compound. The amount of transfers compared to last year is down about $58,000, and this is mostly because when we use monies out of the equipment reserve or the general fund reserve monies, we increase the appropriation and show then as a transfer to the capital fund where that project is being handled. So just to sum up the revenues and balancing tactics, we have the 3.8556, which was the proposed millage rate, is still our recommendation. We budget those funds based on 96% being collected, which is historically sound. I'm showing increases in utility taxes, franchise fees, and state revenues, generally at a 4% increase next year compared to what we estimate to get this year. The building department will make a final payment of the occupational license, taxes that were kept in the building department over the period of the recession, but now we are recovering those in the general fund. This will be the last year of that payment. The stormwater fund transfers monies to the general fund to help offset the cost of operating the stormwater division within the general fund. That's currently been at $500,000 for a number of years. So this year, I'm suggesting we increase that by $50,000 to $550,000 in recognition that the stormwater division's cost over these years have been increased tremendously over what we started out when we set that fee. The airport will give us the second year of paying $50,000 a year towards the $200,000 loan that was made about 8 or 9 years ago. to cover some legal expenses at the airport. So what that money was advanced to the general fund, and now we're repaying that at $50,000 a year. Generally, when we looked at the equipment being requested by the departments, we tried to eliminate those things that were like replacement or repairs of things that may or may not break during this coming year. So we do plan on continuing to use the equipment and facilities replacement reserve to cover those. There is still a good balance on that, and those monies come basically when we have a surplus of revenues over expenses from year to year. So we're expecting some increase in that account from this year's operations, and there should be sufficient monies basically to have as a contingency for these things that we are cumulatively. It would increase the budget substantially, but if we can just budget for those things that we're pretty sure of, then the rest of those hopefully will still stay within our means of the equipment and replacement reserve. And naturally, we look at funding anything out of the general fund departments that we can, out of the DST monies or gas tax monies, to not impact the general fund's balances. So what we didn't include is anything more than a 3% allocation for pay increases for the employees. We, as I mentioned, we settled the contingency that we had earlier about the group insurance premiums, so we're within our bound there. I still don't have the renewal premiums for workers' compensation and the property and general liability insurance. I don't expect that's going to have an impact, but it is out there. Probably will be able to cover that if it's within a kind of reasonable amount. And I do know our workers' comp experience factor has gone down, so we should have a favorable impact on the premiums in that case. Talking about the enterprise funds, the golf course, we are assuming a 4% increase in their operating revenues over the current year budget. This is going to be challenging, but we've got some things in place. We hope to increase the amount of revenues. We added a temporary assistant pro and some card attendant part-time monies to keep the level of service up out there. We continued the $100,000 they paid to the airport as rent on the golf course. We don't have to worry about funding the large mowers and the greens equipment any longer because we now have that under the contract with the maintenance folks that do the maintenance on the golf course. And the big item there on the golf course is proceeding with a $1.3 million project on the irrigation system. We will use the capital fund in the golf course to pay the debt service, or basically repay the loan with interest to the building department fund. That way it won't affect the operating budget of the golf course, but it will start using those capital monies we're setting aside from the rate increase we had, I guess, about 3 or 4 years ago. The airport fund, we've had some reduction in rental revenues and fuel sales, but we expect those to hopefully be back in place or be renewed with some things that are in the works. We allocate some monies from the Public Works Director and Environmental Specialist positions in the general fund to serve as the airport director and administrator at this point. We also are charging 25% of a maintenance worker to give them some maintenance support in addition to their one person that on the payroll at the airport. We've got about $14,000 of advertising that we'll do towards economic development. That comes out of airport funds. And as I mentioned, we're paying 1/4 of the general fund loan, $50,000. And they're paying the loans that we had for matching for the hangar projects and out of the DST money. So here again, this is an example of how the DST funds have been most important to us. The building fund, the operating revenues are estimated about 3% higher than the current year budget. With the improved economic conditions, that should be able to reach that. They will receive about another $8,200 of interest on the monies that they loan to the golf course. And part of the advantage to the building fund in this loan is that they would be able to earn a higher rate of interest than I can earn by having the monies in the bank or any kind of investment vehicle that's available to us. They'll be using the building department's reserve cash to do that, but it still won't put them below, I think, about $300,000 to $350,000 of available reserves should something go wrong and the economy tanks again and the permits don't happen. Then we still have an adequate room there, I think, where they won't be asking for trouble by spending what cash that they do have. And as I mentioned, this is the last year of paying back the general fund for the business taxes. On the special revenue funds, the local option gas tax, we do have $50,000 that we are continuing to program towards expenditures towards the All Aboard Florida. We're doing the normal things that we do out of that fund as far as sign replacement, sidewalk repairs, and of course, we are allocating a good amount of money to road restriping. We've got Vosel scheduled to be repaved next year. The following year, Indian River Drive and Barber Street. And the year after that, Bay Drive and Bevan. And then we'll continue years after that with $200,000 going towards street resurfacing type projects. We're using $25,000 out of the parking.
Can we stop right there?
Yes.
Barber Street from where? From 512 to?
North Barber.
Okay.
Okay. Parking in lieu of fund was spending $25,000 of those funds towards the Indian River Drive parking project. But we do have a good balance there of $44,000, and we're getting almost $20,000 a year in the parking in lieu of agreements that we currently have. DST is the workhorse. We have a number of things that we continue to fund out of the DST monies, the police vehicles and some computer upgrades. We're also paying for the stormwater bank note. We started that this year in order to divert some of the stormwater fees towards the ditch work that we desperately needed to be caught up with. So we do have quite a number of capital projects funded by DST next year and the following years, including matching funds for the airport. The CRA fund has a number of obligations that we've got built into that budget that's pretty much using all the amounts of revenue that come in from the city and city's contribution and the counties. We do have the $100,000 continuing for the sewer connection program and funds for the sign grants. And we do plan to redo the Riverview Park sidewalks over the next, in 2016, 2017. The Recreation Impact Fee Fund, the projects there were those recommended by staff for the bike path on Brushfoot, an equipment building, and work at the community center. We did not appropriate and do not recommend the bleacher shields that were requested by the Parks and Recreation Board. Stormwater Utility Fund continues to be programmed to get $100,000 from the general fund for essentially lagoon improvements. That was part of the millage increase that we had last year to provide $100,000 going towards that. We are able to pay for a $200,000 budget for doing additional ditch maintenance next year. And that will be kind of the end of that program to catch us up on the major ditches in town to keep that system functioning well. And I mentioned the increase in the payment to the general fund from the $500,000 to $550,000. And in projecting it out, if you look at how we will go about doing the quarter-round program, if DST should not be renewed, because that's been our source of funding for the quarter-round, the Stormwater Fund, I think, would have to start picking it up in 2019 because the DST monies would be no longer available. And we'd probably be looking at an increase, I mean, just based on just a wild guess, really, it's probably going from the $5 a month to the $6 a month just to be able to continue that program in years after. That's there again if DST should not be approved. We have the Law Enforcement Forfeiture Fund. It does give us some flexibility in the police department. If they've got equipment that they need during the year that's not been budgeted, we can usually draw on these monies to help get the items that they need. In the Cemetery Trust Fund, we've got, by the ordinance creating that, we have half of those monies, or those revenues, are put in a non-expendable account. The other half are put in an expendable account. We are using some of the expendable funds in our capital program for a storage building next year and for redoing the South Roadway in the year ending 2021. As you recall, we bought the property back in 2013 that pretty much completely eliminated the balance that was available there. So we are building that back up and able to do some projects out of that. Just wanted to mention the debt service funds, the DST monies. Those will mature on April of 2017, so it's before we. It's within our current expected receipts on the DST revenues. The stormwater utility debt service doesn't mature until 2022, so we do have some time on that. Now, both these issues are being funded out of DST. So once again, should DST expire, we would have to do something in those later years to also cover the stormwater debt. Just a brief comment or review of the property millage. We had an increase of 9.5% total in additional revenue. Of that, 2.88% was new taxable value or additions to the tax roll, where 6.67 were reassessments. So just a look back at what we had calculated the rollback to be at 3.6290. That added about $105,000 to our available revenues. And obviously, if you recall the slide where we talked about doing something for the employees and benefit levels, wouldn't have been sufficient. So if we go the additional proposed millage at 3.8556, then we get another $182,000, giving us between those two amounts sufficient monies to cover it. The effect on the $100,000 homesteaded property, because of Save Our Homes, it limits their assessed value increases to the consumer price index, which is like 1.7% for this year. They would only pay about $6.17 more per year. And commercial, if you assume that they got the full 6.67% increase to their values, they'd end up paying about almost $26 more than the current year.
If I could really quick, just a quick note on that. When you say $100,000 commercial would be $25, that's each commercial property is $25 per $100,000 in value, and each home is $6 per $100,000 in value. So if it's a $500,000 home, then you're talking about $30 more a month.
You're correct on
A year.
You're correct on the commercial,
Right.
Because every 100,000 they would be adding another $26. On the homesteaded, their $100,000 value is discounted by the $50,000 exemptions, so the $617 only represents taxes or taxable value of $50,000. So
Right, on the first
it's-
100,000,
so
but on every
another
$100,000
$100,000
thereafter, so,
You'd have to double the
Right.
617,
right.
and they would be up to about $18 a year.
Okay. Just wanted for clarification purposes on that. Thank you.
Do we know what is the average assessed value of a house in Sebastian? Do you kind of know?
I had those numbers about 2 years ago. I haven't seen an update on them. I believe it was about 185.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's less than 200,000. And this year I noticed today I got my assessment from my trim notice. Thank you. And I'm looking at all the bottom lines. Finally, my value of my home has gone up. Over the years, it's gone so ridiculously far down in the toilet, which is great for when it comes time to pay taxes. However, this is the first year that my home value is going back up. However, my taxes can only go up 3% because it's homesteaded.
Well, actually, it's a maximum of 3%. When the CPI has only been like 1.7 for this last year,
Right. So
your value should have only gone up
right,
a maximum of 1.7.
Bottom line is my taxes, if everybody raised their rates, I mean, my taxes are going up across the board. That's not just Sebastian, $6. And that's with all the proposed increases, county, school board, et cetera. So it's not doom and gloom.
Just to sum up, the pending wage opener negotiations are yet to be settled. All aboard Florida, I know our city engineer has some information on that, we're still thinking we should be putting the $50,000 a year in a kitty to see what we end up needing to spend.
Don't tell
out of
the
any
county
city
that.
funds.
They're still here.
The big question is the renewal of the discretionary sales tax, because that would be a terrible impact on the city. And as any government these days is dealing with, if the public or the city council wants to add services or do more than we're doing now, there's very little we can do to shuffle things around. We are continuing to be tight. We continue to hold the line on any increases over basically the staffing and budgets that we had while we were cutting back severely. So that sums up my comments. Ed Herlihy, our chairman of the Budget Committee, also wants to add some comments on top of that. I'd be glad to answer any questions that you might want to direct at me at this point. Or
I would just suggest that you've put together an exceptional budget, as you do every year, and I appreciate the hard work that you and your staff have put into this.
I would like to recognize Nancy Veet. She's with it. She's with us this evening, and she does a tremendous job in supporting, us idea people on getting all the documents together and getting it in a format that we can work with. So I do very much appreciate her support.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I have a quick question, Ken. You said the election costs were up like $26,000. Could you say what exactly that entails?
Primarily for our facilities, the City Hall building, the police station, Public Works compound.
I don't understand. The cost, elections?
Oh, I'm sorry,
costs.
election. I thought you said electricity. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, the election is something we only budget during election years, and so this is one year that we need it.
Can I answer that? It goes back and forth every year. We have annual elections. The county has only elections in even years. So in the odd years, when the county doesn't have an election, we pay $2 per registered voter. In the even years, when they have an election, we pay 50 cents per registered voter, and you approved that agreement earlier this year. And that's how it goes back and forth every year. So one year it's about 85 to 9,000, and then the next year it goes up to about 34 or 35,000.
Okay, I remember that
Increase.
now.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
So
Any other questions, Ken?
the trim notice was mentioned, and on that trim notice, we'll have the date of our first public hearing on the budget in September. So we will have our first reading and our second reading as we are required by the state statute. So
Thank you for not including graphs.
Just for clarification too, on the All Aboard Florida monies, that's our reserve fund in case we do go forward with the quiet zones, which we are proceeding and investigating, and we've got our fingers in that pie, and that's to help support our share of what's needed for the quiet zones. And it's going to be, it could be significant funds. So don't get any ideas, county, please, that this is something we have been programming for 2 years now.
So I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Herlihy.
Thank you, Ken. Good evening, council members. I know how much you like PowerPoints, and I'm going to try to make this as quick and easy as possible. Okay. I just want to go through what we did, what we looked at, and give you an idea. I talked about it at the time we set the high millage rate, but I'll go into it just a little bit more. The first two items, the general fund budget, including proposed staff pay increases and expansion. We proposed, it was proposed, and I underline proposed, 3% raises and added positions. That's approximately 250,000, and the operating expenses approximately 153. And the net budget was 273. You've seen these numbers. Remember that the pay increases need to be negotiated, and that's coming up, whatever they will be. And the operating expenses have been well documented. Keep in mind one thing. In your general fund budget, a little over 75% of that whole budget is salary and benefits. There's not an awful lot you can do to it unless you cut people. Of course, it goes up if you add people. So that's, in essence, what we looked at. We looked at a lot of individual items in the general fund budget, but I wanted to give you an overview that we did look at this. And again, our hands are pretty well tied, as yours are, as far as people are concerned. Got to have people to operate this place. Okay, let's go on with other things. Canal repairs. Nothing is budgeted next year for canal. You have 44,000, 44 to 50,000 that you've allocated already for an engineering study that is going on as we speak, I believe, or very shortly. But in talking with the city manager and the city engineer and looking at the whole thing, there's a lot to be examined. Nothing probably will get done next year other than see where we are, see what needs to be done, examine that engineering study. We looked at the golf course irrigation project. As I said to you before, all seven of us kind of racked our brains to see if there were any other wonderful ideas to finance this. Because this is a fairly unique financing that's been proposed. Nobody could come up with anything. So what you are going to have before you in the near future as far as financing that, and Ken's already outlined it to you, is, assuming that you accept it, is about the only way that you're going to get that job done. Mm-hmm. Okay, the next four items. Lagoon funding. We've talked about that. We did it last year. It's in again this year. We're going to be funding oyster mats. We're going to be funding the coalition, our portion of it. And if we can get some grants on baffle boxes, we can fund portions of that. So that definitely needs to be done. Road repair, I don't think there's anybody that has any more discussion about that. It just needs to be done, and we've had an excellent example of getting a major road done. The job on Fleming really looks good, and it sure is an awful lot better road. Mm-hmm. Maybe my car will hold together. So we need that money, and we've got ongoing a couple $100,000 a year. We definitely need to do to catch up. All aboard Florida. Councilmember Coy just mentioned something. Ken just mentioned something. Who knows where we are with this? There's all kinds of speculation. What is the next step? Do we attack? Does the county, does the city attack the permit process? What's it going to cost us? I don't think anybody has any idea where we're going to head on this whole thing. So $50,000 into the fund, that'll give us 100 or a little less. But it's something that we've got to keep in mind. And as Councilmember Coy mentioned, the quiet zones. And if you remember, our governor wiped away that money in this latest budget. That was taken out. He penciled it out. So there's not going to be, what was it, a $10 million fund, I believe, for quiet zones. That's gone.
Wait, not for us, though.
What?
Not for the city of Sebastian. It's gone for this year's funding as far as, but our funds are locked in from in last year's funds, right, Frank?
Are you talking about our 50,000?
No.
Or are you talking about something?
Our application for the quiet zone.
Okay, but did the state fund it?
Let Frank answer that one.
All right, that'd be good.
Frank Watanabe, the city engineer. Councilmember Corey is correct. When we submitted our grant through FDOT, this was an FDOT fund for rail. It was in the previous year. Where that grant sits right now was certain projects were allocated in that previous year. Our project and any project related to All Aboard Florida were put on hold. The reason is FDOT, makes sense, would not want to fund the project if All Aboard Florida is going to pay for it. So they're saying, let's see what All Aboard Florida does with the plans, with their funding, and if that situation doesn't occur, the money's there. So our funds and that grant was put on hold, but it was submitted, it was accepted, and it is on file at FDOT. So the money's there. The current year money has been dispersed from FDOT. Vetoed, yes.
Okay. All right.
So that means that we're the only one in the county. Actually, we're the only place on the Treasure Coast who applied for the quiet zone grants, and it was approved. And I think I'm correct in saying that we are the only ones on the Treasure Coast. Does that mean we have to accept it? No. But it's there. If it comes down that the conditions to do the quiet zones are too burdensome or we can't afford it, humma, we can always say thanks but no thanks. But we have kept the door open and have a plan B, whether All Aboard Florida goes forward or not. The freight trains are just as noisy, if not noisier, than All Aboard Florida passenger rail. So we have protected that. And I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
No, thank you. I think that's good information for everybody.
we still need that 50,000. I'm glad you
Absolutely.
guys put that in there because we don't know our matching funds, what other incremental values are going to be to getting the quiet zone. So thank you for putting that in.
And the other thought was that if we got into the situation where it appears that we are at this moment, whether the city is going to need any legal fees or spend any money in that area, legal or engineering. So that was what that was all about. And last, in that subject area is the sewer connectivity. We had that program last year, and we're going to continue on with it. The last couple of things, the quarter-round construction, as you know, it is on hold because we're doing the ditches. We've diverted the money. We talked about it at some length. We looked to see if there was any funding. And as Ken said, the well is dry. We've allocated all the money in this in this budget, and it is a tight budget. So there isn't any money to fund that quarter round thing, but we've got to get the ditch thing done, and we all agree on that. And last but not least, we had quite a discussion on public safety. We discussed it first with the city manager. He did not bring anything forward as far as additional people in public safety. We discussed it again. And the general consensus of the committee was, if it isn't brought forward and we don't see a great need for it, then so be it. So that wasn't done. So nothing was spent there. Okay, last, how are we going to fund it? You all know pretty much where we are on this thing, keeping that millage rate at 3.8556. It balances the budget. That's what we recommended to you at the high end. That's what you approved as far as the DR 420, and you get to approve it in September, or if you choose to cut things back and anything less. And that is our PowerPoint for this year. Any
Thank
questions?
you for the presentation.
Thank you.
And thank you for not including any graphs.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Were there any questions of, okay. That moves us on to item number 8, the consent agenda. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second? Do we need a voice vote? I guess we do. Roll call,
Let's
please.
do roll call. Vice Mayor Adams.
Yes.
Ms. Coy.
Yes.
Mr. Hill.
Yes.
Mr. McPartland.
Yes.
Mayor Gilmore.
Yes. All right.
Just for the
And
record, that
includes
included-
number 8F.
As revised.
Yes, that's correct. A through F.
Thank you very much for your support.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. Thanks, Jason. Okay, that brings us to committee reports. There is one unexpired regular position open in the Natural Resources Board. I believe Mr. Lampiazzi has said that he would like to move up.
Yes.
So do we have consent to do that, board?
Promote him.
Okay, we're going to promote him.
Okay.
We're going to kick him upstairs.
Good.
All right. That moves us to public hearings. We have none. No unfinished business. Public input. This would be when the public would bring any new input to us. So now's the time to come on up and, yes, sir.
Good evening, council members. My name is George Millar. I live at 405 Rolling Hill Drive. I'm also a member of the Natural Resource Board. At the last meeting, I was nominated and elected to be chair of that board. I know many of you have felt some frustration regarding the Natural Resource Board, as well as I have, about its kind of being stagnant. So it's my goal to get that, get things moving along with the oyster mats and other different projects that we have that we've been discussing for quite some time. An example of that, it will be we're having a meeting on this Friday at 3 p.m. To discuss more about the oyster mats and where we are at with the permits and what we need to do to persevere and get busy and get in the water. And I just wanted to come and introduce myself, so if you have any questions for me at any time, I appreciate the support of Mr. Watanabe and his staff meeting with us at the meetings and things of that nature. And they've done a great job, and we rely on them heavily also. So I just want to say thank you.
Quick comment. I'm hearing really good things about, I know there were some troubling times there, and I'm glad to, I really believe that you're going to get the whole group to overcome this. It already looks a lot better, and things are going quite well. I just want to let you know that if you guys ever need anything, I would be happy to come and help you guys and serve as, if council will allow me, to serve as a representative from this council. Anytime you have a stumbling block or you need someone. Unfortunately, I wanted to come to do the oyster mats, but I am not in town. this Friday. And I go away so infrequently, but I'm sorry I cannot come Friday. But any other time that you think you need some
I'll just
assistance,
give you an
I'd
open
be
invitation.
happy.
You're welcome at any time.
Okay.
So anytime you would like to come, and if we feel that we also need you there specifically, I'll make sure to contact you.
Well, best wishes, and good things are coming, I can tell.
And I would also say, Mr. Millar, that to not be a stranger.
Okay.
You know, we've tasked you with some stuff that we haven't asked of other boards. So, you know, please come, give us a report at your pleasure.
I will.
Okay? That'd
Thank
be
you very
great.
much. Appreciate
Thank
your
you.
time.
Thank you. Is there anyone from the public, anyone else from the public that would have anything? Seeing no one, that moves us to new business, council health care coverage. Do we have a motion on that? Need a motion?
Oh, Mr. Mayor, I'd move to direct the city manager to make employee health care available for purchase by council members.
All right, I'll second that for discussion. Is there anyone from the public that would speak on that? Seeing none. Council? Who wants to go first?
Mr. Mayor, may I?
I've been accused of not listening, so I'd like to go last.
My turn? Okay. All right. At the last time we spoke about this, I was trying to look at it from both sides of the coin. And when I said it could be used as a way of attracting qualified people, some thought it was a perk. And I think the term perk used in that sense was not the term I would have used it. You know, it seemed, using the word perk seemed like a dirty four-letter word at that time. I would have rather to have called it an incentive. Okay. It's just as if a regular job, you're putting a job out there, you're trying to attract the best people you can. You offer incentives. That's how I saw it. That being said, though, I still consider our job not to be a full-time position. And as such, a full-time position, 37 hours, 40 hours, health insurance would be afforded to that person. We may have large documents to read and places to visit, things like that, but that's not on a consistent basis. So in my opinion, our job is part-time. And if it is part-time, it doesn't rise to the level of requiring a health insurance. So that's how I see it. It's a part-time job. It doesn't require health insurance.
Okay. I'll wait. Mr. McPartland?
You want me to go? Okay. I look at it, you say when it was brought up, it would attract more qualified people. The first thought was, well, what's wrong with the people that are sitting up here now? But I mean, that's one thing. But, I look at it, this sitting up here on the dais, it's about service above self. And you don't look at the incentives or what's giving. And if it doesn't matter that 90% of the rest of the state of Florida gives benefits to their council members. I just don't see it in our position. I look at it also, I get that little kid song coming through my head. Someone stole a cookie from the cookie jar. Who was it? And I mean, if we're up here in charge of making decisions for ourselves, you want to attract better clients. Why don't we just come out and say council members should earn $50,000 a year?
Oh, that sounds good.
That'll attract the best candidates. But we're not looking at that. I mean, if you truly think that, that council members should receive benefits, I would feel more comfortable putting out to the voters and let them vote on such a decision as that. I mean, the other aspect about, you're talking about, I mean, I can talk all I want because I have coverage. But I could get this coverage here as a secondary coverage, United Healthcare. And what comes with that, me paying $25 a month, I get a $2,000 EBT card to go for my co-payments. So I could maintain utilizing my same insurance, and when I go to the doctor for my co-pays or whatever I do, I can utilize that EBT card. So basically, I'm voting myself almost a $2,000 a year raise. And I mean, that's what it is. Whether you have insurance, you don't have insurance. But again, I look at this is service above self. If you don't have insurance and you're up here, you know, again, I mentioned, and it's not to belittle any kind of fact, but there are options that are out there in the community. Again, like I said, the Homeless Families Center, they offer free doctor comes in with his staff, you know, the first and third Tuesdays of the month offering, you know, whatever you need. But I just don't think we should be voting on something for ourselves, especially of this magnitude. And you might want to say it's only costing the city a little bit here or there, but I think you're continuing to grow government where it doesn't need to be grown. And I say let enough alone and, you know, no need. Thank you.
I'll go if you like.
Pardon?
I'll go if you.
Well, you made the motion, and you can be last. Okay. The maker of the motion can be last.
I just want to hear everybody. Don't want to be accused of not listening. I did a lot of soul searching to make sure I wasn't just being so narrow-minded on this because, yeah, sometimes I get tunnel vision. But and in order to do that, I had to look at myself, and I too have insurance, but could use dental or, geez, I never even thought about the $25 for $2,000. That's a deal. But again, I just don't believe it. This is a part-time job. And I agree with Councilmember McPartland. I think if we are going to consider this, we should bring it up at the next charter review and make it part of the charter and let the voters make that decision. Let the public decide this. And I, like Councilmember McPartland, I don't really care what the rest of the state does on this issue. In this particular case, there is to me, it's a moral issue. None of our city employees who are part-time, none of our city employees who are part-time get health insurance. They do not have that option. Now, if they did, that would be a little different, because then we as part-timers would be like everybody else within the city. So you are setting the standard different because we sit up here and we're giving, I don't care if you call it an incentive, a perk, a benefit, whatever you want to call it, you're giving council something of value. It's kind of like another golf issue, but we're not going to go back there. If any one of us up here needed health insurance so badly, I think it would be safe to say that would be something that you could use the $300 that we get every month that we don't even have to document for expenses. $300 a month is given to us for additional expenses. We don't have to turn in receipts. And if I sit down and I include a portion of my cell phone bill, a portion of my internet service, a portion of, now I can count my UVerse bill because I get council meetings on UVerse now. But even if I add in all of that, a portion of it as expenses, and gas for my car, I still am way short of $300 a month, folks. And I don't even have, I'm the only one up here that does not have a city cell phone. So, I mean, the city gives us cell phones, the city gives us iPads, and now we're asking for the city to give us health insurance as a part-time employee. I think it's ridiculous. I haven't changed my opinion. And the people that I talk to, every single individual I talk to, said, "Are you out of your mind?" So no, I'm not out of my mind. I'm just not for it. Thank you.
Well, thank you for your opinion. I really feel like this is not a part-time job, and so I'd have to disagree strongly with you. And I don't think, Ms. Coy, that you work this as a part-time job, and I have great respect for all that you've been able to do for the city. I know, for instance, that if it wasn't for your efforts, we wouldn't have a senior resource center there. I tried about 5 years ago to get the Senior Resource Center to help us establish a senior resource or a senior center, and it was unsuccessful. And where I was unsuccessful, you were successful, so kudos to you. You spend lots of time doing work for the city. You don't work this as a part-time job, and I think when you call it a part-time job, you disrespect yourself. When you get one of these cards, it says that you're an employee of the city, because no other person can have one of these cards. With one of these ID cards, I can open this door when it's closed on Saturday or Sunday. If I had it coded properly, I could go into the police department, I could go into the airport. Part-time employees don't have those types of responsibilities, folks. They just don't. And, every other city has made available, virtually every other city. Fellsmere does, Vero does, and the list that the city manager compiled, 90% of the cities make it available to their council members, whatever you want to call it, as a perk, as a courtesy. I would argue that Vero Beach gets $1,000 a month salary plus health insurance, plus life insurance, plus dental insurance, and the $300 that we get in salary and then $300 that we get for expenses, I'll tell you, that's minimum wage for me. That's about a minimum wage for the hours that I put in. This is a benefit that I wouldn't use because I have Medicare. I wouldn't utilize it. But I think that it's something that certainly the position deserves, and I would vote for it. Councilmember Hill, you made the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, I would first start by saying that any suggestion that I would be here trying to give myself an extra perk is ludicrous. I'm just about ready to start on my 12th year of service in the city of Sebastian, and I think I was making like $120 a month the first year, and now that's considerably more. And I'm not running for re-election. So this is a call it what you want that's not going to benefit me much at all. But I do think that the city of Sebastian is falling behind. And I do think it's a moral issue. And I think there's some misinformation out there as well. I mean, we keep talking about us getting health insurance. We wouldn't be getting anything. We would be allowed to purchase into a group health coverage from the city. That's what we're talking about. And just to put some light on what we're talking about, if we were to say a council member had a family and he wanted to put his family on the health insurance plan, that council member would come in here and do his job or her job and do everything that they've put out, said they would do, and then every month they would have to write a check to the city of Sebastian. They would get nothing because it would be more than the $600 that we get in order to be on the family coverage. So they would actually have to write a check to the city of Sebastian. So let's just make sure we're not saying that, we're trying to give ourselves a perk or it's a moral dilemma. I think it matters that 80% of the other cities are ahead of us on this. I think we're behind. I think 80% of the cities are right. The federal government, whether you like it or not, has made the determination that good, affordable health care should be available for everyone. So what we're talking about here is just making it available for purchase, making it available so that we can buy health care coverage. It's funny. I beg your pardon. I've got some things I'm thinking about.
That was a pause.
Yes, it's a pause for effect. 80% of the cities are ahead of us in this, and quite frankly, I do think that matters. Again, this isn't a perk that's going to benefit me because I'm not running for re-election, and you all know that. Many of the cities that we're talking about get much more than just health care coverage. I'm talking about the moral issue that the United States of America, whether you agree or not, has decided that everyone should have available, affordable, good quality health care. What we're talking about here is making that available for purchase by city council members. Now, political posturing is going to cause us potentially to not do this, and it'll be a few more years, and council will have to change probably in order to make this adjustment, but quite frankly, it's going to happen because it's the right thing to do. It's not something that benefits me, and I'll tell you something, I don't vote on things based upon whether they benefit me or not. I vote on things based upon whether it's the right thing to do. Again, we're talking about making available for purchase health care. Now, everyone I talk to thinks it's ludicrous that that's not available. So we obviously talk to different people. Another suggestion was made that we put this up for vote, put it in the charter. Now, I find that to be absolutely laughable. In 2006, the Charter Review Committee came to the City Council and said, we want to put up for referendum and a vote a raise for the Sebastian City Council. And the City Council said, we're not going to put that up for referendum. Instead, what they did is they gave themselves a $300 increase disguised as a travel allowance rather than put it to the vote. That's a 600% increase to the travel allowance. No need for documentation. And I know Ms. Coy remembers that because she made the motion, if I'm not mistaken, to approve that increase to $300. So let's be careful. Let's ease up on the political posturing a little bit and do what's right. The right thing to do is to make it available for purchase. That's all we're talking about doing.
Sally, roll call, please.
Whoa, wait a minute. Hold on. That deserves some rebuttal. Come on, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, fine.
I would challenge that I don't think I made that motion, but, you just had to get that little dig in there. Yeah, that's the past, and the Charter Review Committee has put a raise to public vote twice since I've been up here, and twice the public has said, no raise. That was an expense account, and you said travel expenses, expense account. That's for things like cell phones, which now the city is providing cell phones, iPads, all these other things that the expense account is supposed to pay for. So I do object to that. That's all. Go ahead,
Okay.
Mr. Mayor. Put it up for a vote.
Okay. Roll call, please, Sally.
Ms. Coy,
Absolutely not.
Mr. Hill,
Yes.
Mr. McPartland,
No.
Mayor Gilmore,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Adams.
No.
All right, that fails 3-2. Our next item is uh, 13B, update on grant applications.
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor and Council, I put this on the agenda this evening so that Council can get a kind of a cross-section view, really, of what we've been doing in the last year and a half, and off into the future. We have some applications out there for grants. This is really to elicit comment about the philosophy of some of the things that we've gone after. Most of the things here are going to be successful, and we are going to get funded. Some are not. And actually, some of the values may change as we go forward and either get the grant, get the project or not. But I just wanted to make sure that council saw this, has an opportunity to comment on what we've been doing in our grant pursuit.
Are there any questions? Okay, thank you. Item C, under new business, is consider endorsement of open letter to Florida League of Cities members by Floridians for Solar Choice. We have a copy of the open letter in there. Do we have a motion?
I move. Second.
Is there any comment from the public?
Good evening, Tim Glover. I'm live in Mico, and this issue came to my attention a little over a month ago by email, and my understanding is from the email that the Florida League of Cities has the general consensus that they're opposed to the amendment called Floridians for Solar Choice. And they brought to my attention that there was an open letter being circulated from several municipalities and cities that was going to be transmitted to the Florida League of Cities asking them not to oppose it. So I chose to bring it to your attention for your consideration. I guess the general opposition has been that they were concerned that there would be so much demand by the public for solar equipment that they would qualify for rebates and tax credits, that would cost the public a lot of money. I'm not sure if that's the case or not, but I do know that it's supposed to, my understanding is the amendment is to promote more free market for the solar industry. And in some examples from the Northeast, I think specifically, that I've heard of, that where there is more of a free market, some of the examples would be like utilities or businesses that promote solar have actually rented space on homeowners' roofs in order to install these kind of systems. Not that the homeowner would get any benefit from the power, but they would rent their space on their roof so that systems could be installed, and the installer or the company would then get the benefit of the production of the power. Or the other example being that if a homeowner was interested in solar power and installing these systems, that there is a upfront cost, a substantial upfront cost, which has gone down tremendously in the last few years. Instead of actually buying the system, they could rent or lease the systems from the installer. So essentially, once it's installed, the power is free, so they're basically paying the long-term cost of the equipment, but in a lease fashion, so that they wouldn't have a huge upfront cost. So it seems to me that it's generally a good idea, so that's why I decided to bring it to your attention.
Okay, thank you, sir.
If we pass this, which I'm hoping we do, Jerome, are you our legislative representative, yes? And you're going to be going to the legislative meetings?
Yes, I'll be there.
If passed, then this, we would be asking you also to bring this to the attention of Florida League of Cities. This weekend is Florida League of Cities.
Yeah, my understanding, that's true.
And so to voice for our opinion that, hey, choice, it's a complicated issue, and there's a lot more than the couple pages that have been put in our packet. But I think it's important that we have choice versus allowing electric companies to just take over the whole thing. I think we should have more choices in what happens with the solar power. So that's also, if we sign this, that is incumbent. We're throwing you an extra bone, like you didn't have enough to do.
Yeah, generally, I'm not interested in any constitutional amendments, and I'm not going to change my opinion for this. To change the Constitution and amend the Constitution for everything that comes down the pike, and I didn't even vote for the First Amendment last time, because I don't think we need to change the Constitution. Every time somebody has something that they want to get done, they want to change the Constitution. And you know, when we get 10, 12, 13 ballot initiatives on there, we're changing the Constitution, there are unintended consequences every time you do that. It sounds great, and it really sounds like, well, it'd be great to have choice, to put a solar collector on your roof. But there are unintended consequences, and there are companies out there that will prey on homeowners and stick something on your roof that you've got to pay for 20 or 30 years, whether it generates electricity or not. And, you know, there's already structures there in place. I think the electric company is going and has a large investment in solar, in gas, in nuclear. I think there's other ways to do it other than amending the Constitution. So I would not be in favor of amending the Constitution for anything, with the exception maybe of open primaries. So that's my stance. Who's next?
That's a good
Where are
point.
you reading amending the Constitution?
Yeah.
Oh, what do you think this is? It's an amendment to the Constitution to give solar power a chance to go on everybody's roof. It's an amendment to the
So our
Constitution.
Constitution says right now, no solar power on your roof, Andrea? You can't do it?
No, doesn't say that.
So then why do we need an amendment To not?
Exactly my feeling.
Well, I don't see where it says in here.
Well, you didn't read the whole packet. It says in here, Floridians for Solar Choice is a grassroots citizens effort working to help homes, and goes on. And about the third, it says, in working to place a constitutional amendment on the 2016 ballot that would give Florida's families, businesses the right to choose solar power. It's a constitutional amendment.
Well, that means the Constitution then says we can't.
No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't say that.
I stand corrected then. Okay.
No, that's a fine point, Mr. Mayor, and I have to agree with you on that.
So, I mean, I'm all for solar. I love solar. I just don't think that we need to amend the Constitution to get it. We have legislatures, we have legislators, we have representatives, we have senators, and that's the right way to do it. Go through the proper channels, not change the Constitution. So, unless there's other discussion, we'll call for a roll call.
Sorry. Mr. Hill?
No.
Mr. McPartland?
No.
Mayor Gilmore?
No.
Vice Mayor Adams?
I'm sorry, I'm a little confused here. We're voting no, that you're not in support of this letter?
Correct.
Because we don't want to burn the Constitution.
Okay, I'm going to be voting yes because I'm in support of the letter.
Okay.
Ms. Coy?
Yes.
All right, that fails.
Well, Jerome, you don't have anything to do. Sorry, Tim.
We lighten your load, Jerome. All right. City attorney matters.
Nothing tonight, sir. Thank you.
City manager matters.
Yes, sir. I'd like to call attention, public, of some recent articles in magazines. This is the August edition of Florida Trend, which was stolen from the city attorney's desk. And in that article, in the southeast section, there's an article in there that highlighting working waterfront. Nice picture of Charlie Sembler and Krabby Bill. So invite everyone to look at that. The other article is from the Quality Cities magazine, which is the Florida League, and they talk about protecting the Indian River Lagoon. And there's an article in there featuring Sebastian also and our testing of the water in the Indian River Lagoon. There's a picture of Michelle, and of course Periwinkle Stormwater Park, and beautiful sunrise over the lagoon. So that's all I have, and thank you very much.
It's a great article. Both articles are good. City clerk matters.
Only to announce again that candidate qualifying officially begins next Thursday, the 20th, and ends on September 4th for the November 3rd election. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Council matters. Councilmember Coy.
It's not November 8th election.
I'm
No.
sorry?
Is it the 3rd? I didn't write it down, sorry. For the next election in November. I think I said the wrong date, but I don't have it in front of me.
I wasn't listening. I'm sorry.
Tuesday, the 3rd.
Councilmember Coy.
Just very quickly, tagging onto these nice little articles that Sebastian's getting some really, really positive press, except in the Press Journal. Couldn't help but see Sunday. What a great disappointment. I'm going to publicly say this because I've been telling people all around town. You write an article saying, oh, Sebastian's getting some positive press, and that's in the first paragraph for two sentences, and then spend the rest of the article saying, it doesn't make any difference, they're not going to have any more tourism, nanny, boo-boo. I mean, what a great disappointment. We do something nice, we get some positive press, and then you turn it around to make it a negative. What's up with that? I mean, come on. I'm really, really, really disgusted with that. We deserve a pat on the back once in a while, so gosh darn it, you don't have to take everything we do up here and make it bad, because we've done some pretty darn good things. So I'm really disappointed that the Press Journal did that, and I'm sorry Janet left already, but I'll tell her in person, and might even give Larry Reisman a call. Anyway, Good for Sebastian. We did those articles are really good, and we're getting an award this weekend at Florida League of Cities, a very prestigious. I'll let the mayor talk more about that award. Anyway, that's all I have.
Okay. Councilmember Hill.
I have nothing more. Thank you.
Councilmember McPartlin.
I guess I have a few, maybe several items. I don't know, I just wanted to bring up, I know the Youth Council had a meeting today. I wanted to attend, but I had 3 judges that I was at a meeting with them, so they take a little precedence. Is there a way that we can make that council not bound by the Sunshine Law so they could move more freely? Because I watched the first meeting, and of course, that's the first one out of the box. And, we have these youth that are involved. Can't we make it for kids, because I understand the Sunshine Law, so we don't do any backroom deals or try to hurt somebody. But we're looking at a youth council that's trying to benefit the city for themselves, but they're bound by those laws. So they can't leave a meeting and they hear about a good thing or something they want to do. They can't talk to somebody else on the council. All they're looking to do is something good. They're not looking to say, oh, we're going to, fund this or we're going to fund that. It's just that they could move more freely together, make it easier, make it less, even time consuming on staff. So I just, have a question for Mr. Ginsburg. Is there a way to tweak what they're under?
I'll look into that, because I don't want to say no today. Since I did attend the meeting today, and I talked to the chair and individually as well, but let me think about that.
Okay, because one of the things that,
and I thank my fellow charter officers to bringing to my attention that you were going to ask that issue, but I haven't really had an opportunity to study it.
Right, because, one of the boards that I'm on is the Substance Abuse Free Indian River County, and the lady came up and gave a presentation today talking about they have a Friday Night Done Right event. And, of course, I'm on a lot of boards, and I'm down there in Vero Beach, and everything they always want to keep down in Vero Beach. And I'm like, look, Sebastian, we are part of the county up here and trying to bring an event because they have a trailer, they have a grill, they will bring it. All they look for is support from the local community, could be the Chamber of Commerce, that pays for the food, because they don't have in their grant which money they have to pay for food. But they would bring the trailer up, they could pay for a DJ. If there was police that were needed, say extra, they pay for that. So it's not like it costs the city anything. So it was like having a lady to come up, present that idea, because I look at the youth council, it's something like they say, yeah, we love that. Not that they have to put anything into it, but we support this and go spread the word to their schools. Because the way I look at the Friday Night Done Right, and especially the beginning of the school year, because that's when kids get into high school, and there's cliques in high school. They could get with the good clique, the positive influences, or they could go over to the other clique, which is not so good. So this gives them the, an opportunity for something positive. Like I sold them on Sebastian. I'm like, look, we could do it over there in Riverview Park because, one of the committees I'm on too with the schools and everything, kids always say there's nothing for us to do here. Kids have been saying that since the caveman days, but there's plenty to do. And, because I was part of Dr. Adams, she had a monthly meeting with youth, a representative from each school, and that was one of the things that came up. So they were looking at that. So this Friday Night Done Right event, like I said, Sebastian is a perfect location. I says we have the volleyball courts down there under the lights. We have the park. We have everything else. So or even over at the Barber Street Sports Complex, you have all the fields, you have the playgrounds, you have the skate park, the basketball courts over there. Even, I saw on the agenda for the Youth Advisory Committee, we were talking about Friendship Park, which is back there. That's a great location to have something. And they could do, movie nights or something along those lines. But there's, a lot of great organizations that want to do things, but I feel the kids that are up here, they're just handcuffed by this. And, you may say, hey, they'll get the hang of it sitting up here or following the rules, but they only meet 4 times a year. It's hard enough for an adult to try and follow all these things. And they can have a tremendous impact, and it is the next generation. I would also look to say, there are a couple of boards, we should have a youth position on those. And I'm thinking, Parks and Rec, and the Natural Resources Board. I'm not thinking of the planning and zoning, but I'm looking, there should be a youth member on the Parks and Recs or on, the Natural Resource Board, because those are the youth, those who have the next idea. It's like all the kids come over to my house for stuff, and they're talking about stuff, and I tell them, look, go down there to the Parks and Rec Committee, bring them your great ideas, or come to the council, and as long as you're respectful, we're open to any suggestions, any ideas you have, and that's what we're looking for, is input. Hey, look, as long as you're respectful, we'll listen to you. I mean, that's the whole thing. So anything that could be done to, I think trying to take the shackles off of the youth that are up here, because I mean, all the kids that are up here are extremely bright and intelligent, but I feel they are hampered because of the sunshine laws, and it's not as, freely open.
Did you say that Friday night done right, you're going to get them to come up and present to us?
Well, I could get them to come up and present in another meeting of ours, but the lady came up this afternoon and talked to the Youth Advisory Committee, because I had brought it to them, and I'm like, hey, we just started this Youth Advisory Committee. This is a place that can get behind them and say, rah, rah, and take it back to their schools like, hey, there's an event, we support this. And I mean, it's positive. It's for kids to stay drug-free and also, change things around. So.
And they need money for food, they would need...
They only need the money for, say, what they're grilling, because in their grant or in their budget, because they're a nonprofit. They've been in the county for over 20 years. Chief Morris is a member of the committee, and, that would be like the food. And I know, we discussed, go to Publix, Winn-Dixie, or like I had said, maybe the chamber, because it's not like a tremendous amount of money.
Walmart. I can think a lot of resources. I would help get the funding for that and with other nonprofits. If that becomes something that we want to pursue up here, I think that's great.
Right.
And I think we can get other nonprofits to help participate, as well as Walmart and perhaps Publix and the big box stores, to make something like that happen.
Right.
If they're willing to go way up to Sebastian.
Oh, they're willing to come up here. I'm part of the council. I go to the meetings, and also Michelle Morris, who's tremendous. She's part of it too. And you go down there, you always hear South County, South County, South County. I'm like, North County, let's come on up here. And the Substance Awareness Council, they want youth input. They were like hoping maybe they could get one of the members up here to kind of join the coalition to come to the meetings, and they might even be willing, because the lady who's in charge of the Friday Night Done Right, she's a Sebastian resident. She might be able to say, I don't want to volunteer her, but maybe mentor some of the people that are up here on the council, but then again, I still feel that the youth are just tied by the rules that, we have on them as like all the other committees. And it's just let kids be kids and let things flow more naturally. So that was one item that I had. So you said you could look into that, Mr. Ginsburg?
But now, or I can look into it. Let me look into it.
Okay. All right. Well, that sounds fantastic. And then, I mean, there's another one is that I'm, part of the committee working with the Indian River County School, and then a lot of other organizations, because this came out of the Kids Have Nothing to Do. So one of the things they came up with was the Treasure Coast Has Talent. So it's going to be like an American Idol event, when it's happening. They're actually going to do them in each of the counties, but the winner for the county they're going to have like a meeting with a talent agent in Orlando, but then the grand prize winner, they have like a meeting with a talent agent in Nashville. So Indian River is the kickoff for the Treasure Coast Has Talent, and then the first set of rounds is going to be September 12th from 12 to 5 p.m., and they're having that at the Gifford Youth Achievement Center, and they're hoping to have a lot of youth that come out, and it's all school-age children. I believe they were talking about lowering the age to 10, but originally I know we were at like 12 years old, and then they were going up to include students, like we have dual enrollment students who are in IRSC, so it would be available for them, to come out. And again, this is, it's put on by the Data Abuse Treatment Association, but again, it's to promote what we have, and it's something for kids to do. And then we're looking at having, say, the finale for the county will be later. When's the date? That's going to be at the Vero Beach, Performing Arts Center there. I mean, we were trying to sell it on Riverside, try and get a big event, anything along those lines. But I had given the flyer to Sally to put on Channel 25. But that's, another one of the great things that we have going on for children, as well as, the other committees that I'm involved in is, the Treasure Coast Homeless Services Council, and I was in with them the other week, and they had brought me something, and this is concerning weatherization quick facts. And there's a nonprofit out of Indiantown that is offering services to, as long as you're income and eligibility based. And this would go, I believe, first they have to be a homeowner, and then, and I'm thinking about a lot of elderly or senior citizens, I hate to say elderly or old, because mature, that are on fixed incomes, and basically, there's assistance there. They can come out to their home and they do a review of their home, any way they can improve it as far as, insulation, windows, doors. If their refrigerator's old and it's not energy efficient, they may be able to get you a new refrigerator as well as an air conditioner. And this isn't one of the ones where they come with a low interest loan. This is free. And I didn't attach the applications because the Treasure Coast Services Homeless Council, they understand sometime the more mature audience has trouble filling out an application, and they have volunteered their time to fill out the application. So anybody, a senior has problems, with their home, looking to get improvements, they can give me a call on my cell. I have 3 cell numbers that are out there, and work towards it. I had forwarded it over to Councilmember Coy because, she has a lot of contact with, they're all our constituents, but she has a lot of daily contact.
She's mature.
More mature. Well, in some aspects, I guess you could say that, right? More mature. But, as well as the senior center, because they come in contact with people who are eligible. And again, like I said, it's free. And then also, there's also, for members who are veterans, there's a lot of grants and stuff out there for not only veterans, but also their spouses. And they have a support services for veteran families grant. And, this particular one has a lot to do with, say, Afghanistan and Iraq vets that are returning home and stuff like that, but also the Treasure Coast Homeless, Services Center. There are a lot of grant opportunities that are out there for veterans, and anybody have any questions, I'll leave these flyers. I'll give each of you a flyer. They can stay with, Sally, and they can always feel free to give me a call on either my city cell, and I have a city cell because I can't let it get involved with my personal or my state cell, so they can call that one 453-8540, or they can call my state cell 708-2900 for any kind of problem they may be having. I may be able to assist them, and maybe, as I said, there are services out there for people who need it, and again, like I said, people who don't have health care, there's a lot of services out there. You have the Treasure Coast Community Health, they have a great office up there in Fellsmere, offers dental care as well. They have a great one down in Vero Beach, as well as the Homeless Family Center, which offers services. So thank you for allowing me that time.
Good information all. Thank you so much. I don't have much of anything except that we are going to be accepting a very prestigious award. We have been given the Environmental Stewardship Award that our city manager, Mr. Riffin, talked about, and that's the most prestigious award that the League of Cities gives out. We share that with Pinecrest this year, but we're going to get our own loving cup, I think, so we'll be bringing it back from the League of Cities convention. That's all I have. Vice Mayor Adams.
I have nothing, thank you.
Okay, we are now adjourned.